Hello YouTube. This is definitely a throw together video because I hadn't actually planned on doing this. I wound up, well, let's start with, this is a Bell & Howell model 414 8mm Director's Series film camera, movie camera. And I had been using it in manual mode, which is determined right here, and inadvertently I broke there's a little red pointer inside here that I broke because I pushed the dial too hard, and the knob is loose, and when I went to take it off I also forced the inner screw. Anyhow, the pointer broke off. That's the short version. These cameras are very cool. They're fully manual, except for the exposure, which won't make any difference nowadays. Anyhow, the automatic aperture feature, because this camera was built for like super duper slow film that you're just not going to find today. So you have to work with it in manual mode. You can, quick overview here, you've got your crank, you've got the indicator window, which tells you how much energy is stored in the spring, your stop, run, and slow motion settings for actual filming. This one happens to be a spool feed. So if you have one of these and you have trouble with the aperture control, which is right there, this is how you get the face off. There's a couple screws that hold the actual finish faceplate on. There's a small faceplate right here that's only glued on and will probably come right off if it doesn't fall off by itself. So you take the two little pieces of faceplate off, and then there's a screw here. There is and this screw is in a well, so it's captive. There's a screw here, which is not in a well, it's just in a hole, and that screw can get lost in the works if you're not super careful. And then there's another screw right here next to your filter toggle. And when you remove those screws, you can very gently pick. Oh, I've got the thing screwed together. Hold on. Okay, so moving right along, having removed the one screw I had left in there, you can very gently lift the face off. Now I want to be very cautious because there's a solid connection here. It's a cable between the lens and the viewfinder, so that the lens and viewfinder work together, so that the camera is seeing, or you are seeing in the viewfinder, the same thing that the lens is seeing. So again, long story short, if you can see, there is that little red pointer that I accidentally broke off, and these are the works. Now this is like a clockwork. You've got it's almost like a watch balance that is like super delicately set in here. Here behind this plate are the two aperture discs that open and close. What I had to do, because the point where that little pointer is glued onto this balance here, you can't just reach in there and do it. You gotta undo these two screws, move this plate out of the way, glue the thing down, and then get this back together, which is a nightmare all by itself. So I'm not going to demonstrate that because I am not taking this thing apart again. It's not to say, it's like a balance wheel. It has a pin on the bottom that does not come out. I tried to get the whole thing out. It doesn't. There's something in there holding it. On the top, there's a tiny little pin, just like this, that sets into a divot in this adjustable screw right here, so that that little tiny gear will float just like that. And maybe you can even see how those two aperture leaves work. In any case, that's how you get the front off to service all of this stuff. In there also, if you can see it, there's a little filter, which originally was to use outdoor color film indoors. The little lens fell out, and this was such a nightmare. I'm not going to fix that because I'm not going to be using probably any color film in this. It's very difficult to find, if you can find it at all now. Upon reassembly, you want to be careful because this pointer has a high spot on it, and it has to fit in that little Y right there. And when you turn this knob, that little Y turns also and pushes that little pointer thing around, and in turn drives the aperture leaves, I guess you could call them. So that was probably getting this thing back together after having disturbed it was probably a 2.5 hour project of trial and error until I finally got it. And I ultimately wound up taking this screw out, setting the apertures as close as I could come, centering that pin by eye, and then putting that screw in there. And that is something I probably will never do again, because it was certainly an experience. But I wanted to show you that. And there's going to be a short slideshow with mostly just views, not a lot of technical stuff, because if you're going to get into this, you need to have more bravery than anything else. So that's that, and good luck.